Welcome to another episode of Preparing for the Unexpected. I'm your host, Alex Fullick, and as always, we like to talk about things related to business continuity, risk management, COVID, well-being, crisis management, anything that helps you, your organization, or your community prepare for, respond to, and overcome adverse situations. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, please feel free, reach out. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm the only Alex Fullick there. I'm really easy to find, and I do respond to everything I get. Longtime listeners and viewers on YouTube, you'll know that I was talking about speaking at the BCI World Virtual Conference in 2021, in early November, I think it was.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
my hope was that I would be able to get some of those speakers to come on the show and talk about their topic or something relatable. And today is one of those days. Speaking on the topic of business continuity and risk management, a well-orchestrated Paso Doble for resilience, I'd like to welcome to the show Federica Maria Rita Livelli. Federica, welcome.
Good morning to everybody. It is a real honor to be here, and thank you, Voice of America and the Business Continuity Institute, to giving me the opportunity to illustrate my transposition in terms of risk management and business continuity. It was a real challenge for me when the Business Continuity Institute was calling for presentation. So I was thinking how to present the implementation of this fundamental discipline in a different way. Because you have to know that being a consultant and a professor at a different Italian university, I try both with my clients and my students to introduce this discipline and make them understand how to implement them professionally and efficiently by using different metaphorical transposition due also my humanistic background. And so this time, while I was thinking about the interaction of business continuity and risk management, it occurred to me to think about two ballerinos, two Paso Doble dancers that start looking to each other, then approaching when the music starts playing. So in a transpositional environment, when the organization needs to understand how to guarantee its resilience to cope with all awkward situation and avoid to be jeopardized by them, I have in mind this picture. On one side, business continuity, on the other side, risk management, and they need to get closer and closer, one in front to each other. On one side, as it is shown in this picture, where I wanted to make this graphical transposition properly understood, I have on one side the business continuity discipline that aims to protect the assets, and on the other side I have the risk management discipline that needs to identify risk and threat that may jeopardize the achievement of the organization's goal. And together they need to provide the proper protection requirement on one side, the business continuity after the business impact analysis with the design of the business continuity plan and the guarantee of the availability of resources, and on the other side, risk management with the risk assessment, carry out the proper risk treatment, and then identify the proper strategy in order to manage properly all points of failure and identify the proper mitigation measure. Therefore, these two disciplines for me have the same dignity, because for me, resilience is the result of the calibrated synthesis of risk management and business continuity. And by implementing these two disciplines and try to have the proper overview of the whole organization, we are able to guarantee the resilience of our corporation. And what I like always to underline with my client and my student is that, namely, these two disciplines are disciplines of common sense. And you can implement also this discipline in our everyday lives, because as the ancient Greek said and engraved in the past century in the ancient Greek on the tympanon of the Delphi temple, gnosis auton. That means, in translating into English, know yourself. Because only knowing the context within the organization and outside the organization, and as far as our everyday lives, knowing ourselves, we can better understand how to embed this principle and apply to corporation, but also to everyday life, because we don't need to forget the fact that organizations are made by human beings. And so everybody, all stakeholders, internal and external one, should be involved in the implementation of these two disciplines that, as two Paso Doble dancer, play at unison, dance at unison, and within the metaphorical transposition that I made in the organizational ballroom, need to act synergically together with all the other security discipline that contribute to the resilience of the organization, because we need to remind that on one side we have a business continuity with a resilience-based approach, and on the other side we have a risk management with a risk resilience approach, and the family of the so-called harmonized standard follow these two approach, and all together guarantee what I usually like to define the orchestral, the organizational symphony of our organization. Because to make another different transposition, our organization should be also considered as a symphonic orchestra, where we have business continuity manager, risk manager, or in nowadays undergoing a very accelerated process of digitalization and innovation. We need to guarantee a proper resilient symphony. And so at the center, as orchestra director, we have a business continuity risk manager supported by the other security discipline manager, and each function playing its piece of symphony, but all together, when it's time to react effectively and efficiently, they play all together the organizational symphony.
Well, that leads me to a question.
Yeah.
Using the orchestra as an example, we have the conductor who starts everything.
Yeah.
With a dance couple, there's a leader and a follower. So since you're talking about business continuity and risk management, which one comes first?
For me, they are at the same level. They have the same dignity and they are complementary to each other. Because on one side, I can't miss risk management because I need risk assessment in order to identify the risks that are affecting or may jeopardize my organization, but I need to measure the impact of those risks if they occur on my organization. And here comes the business continuity with the business impact analysis, because sometimes you have organization where the risk register and the risk treatment already exist. And so you need only to check if it's still consistent with the contingent situation and scenario, and verify if all the design framework is still valid with respect to the context that we are analyzing. On the other side, if there is no risk register or the scenario has changed, necessarily you have to revise the risk that may affect or have consequences on your organization if they occur. So it's you can't proceed in providing an effective, resilient framework if you don't consider both business continuity and risk management, because you need to undergo then the risk treatment, consider the gap that you can not mitigate, and you transfer, for example, to insurance company. On the other side, you have to guarantee the resilience of the organization, and therefore on one side you have the business continuity plan together with the crisis management plan, the crisis communication plan, the disaster recovery plan, because we don't have to forget the fact that nowadays we live in a very phygital world made of physical and technological aspect, and more than ever we need to be able to manage properly cybersecurity.
Is it fair to say that really one can't exist without the other? Business continuity means nothing if there's no risk.
Because for me, I have my golden team that is made of three: business continuity, risk management, and nowadays more than more than ever, cybersecurity. Because with these three disciplines, if well implemented, we guarantee the governance of organization and the compliance of the same to all laws and rules. And don't forget that nowadays, at the global level, with this digital Far West cyber war that we are experiencing, we need to be able to manage also cybersecurity. That is part of our life. We have at the European level the new Digital Act, the new 27013 ISO that was issued 2 weeks ago, that is a further updating of the guideline, providing all the elements to guarantee a structured implementation of IT services and IT tools that altogether contribute to the cyber resilience of the organization. But once again, what is fundamental for all the ISO all standard is the fact that we need to keep in mind that at the center of everything there is the human being. It's for me the condition sine qua non. The involvement of all organizations, of all stakeholders, and also in terms of proper management of cybersecurity issues, technological issues, you need to have in mind that technology in the meaning, etymological meaning of the word is something, is a lever that help human beings to perform better. But for me, even for artificial intelligence, machine learning, IoT, man should be always at the center to control technology, to control artificial intelligence, in order to guarantee what I define the so-called harmonic innovation.
So talking with risk management, business continuity, if they're interacting a lot, they can't really exist without the other. How do you continually improve what both are doing? Because you mentioned security, it's as time goes by, it's getting more and more prominent. So how do you keep two going?
For me, we have a precious diamond that you consider a diamond as a rock, a precious rock, where business continuity for me and risk management are the main ingredient of this sort of, let us speak about a potion, a magic potion. So as the main ingredient, you have a business continuity and risk management that needs to react chemically with all the other agents in a chemical transposition. So I need the crisis management team, I need the facility management, I need the IT security manager, the cybersecurity manager, the communication management, the disaster recovery plan. All these elements constitute the diamond, the magic potion for the organization to be successful. And we experienced nowadays, especially in the latest 2 years after the pandemic, that we need very fluid organization, very agile. It's as if all the organization should act as a chameleon. To be ready to change, to adapt, be flexible, and react properly. But to do that, you need to structure yourself in advance. So, for example, risk management as an ex-ante in advance approach, because I need to identify risk, try to mitigate them, and prepare my organization to face a disruptive event. And business continuity needs to measure the effect of this risk and design the proper resilient solution in terms of the different plans that should be activated when a disruptive event occurs. And so it's a matter of, as in the army, to be prepared to exercise all of these framework that you implement properly, continuously, and the fact that in the representation of the two standards, there is always a reminder to a will. That means that when you start moving your resilient will as organization, it's a never-ending voyage.
Well, let's touch on that exercise piece that you just mentioned. Just like an orchestra or a dance couple, you have to keep practicing and practicing and practicing all these roles and finding errors and areas to improve on, right? Because if
Exactly,
you said, like
exactly, it's a fundamental. It's a fundamental, because the more you exercise, the more you train, the more you get people involved, your internal and external stakeholder, and embed this culture of resilience within the organization. And especially for me now, for example, in Italy, when the pandemic was declared, we realized that we were missing at the governmental level the training, the proper exercising of the pandemic plan that was not actually maintained, and the latest review occurred in 2006. And even the fact that although it was a unique momentum, there was not a proper approach in terms of crisis management and crisis communication. Mm-hmm. And I took part to the dissertation of these issues together with other 35 professionals, and we published in Italy a book trying to explain. I provided with another colleague of mine the perspective of implementing properly business continuity and risk management, but all professionals were trying to explain at the national level with this book that was really successful. It was called the State in Crisis, explaining how it is important to set the proper frame of managing risk, guaranteeing business continuity, prepare people and organization in dealing with the crisis, because the crisis, risk management, business continuity is something that you structure in peace in order to be ready, metaphorically, to play and attack the enemy, the risk during the war.
And you have to exercise that. You can't just
exactly.
You've got to practice
because
to be able to do that.
Yes, exactly, because it's something that in a reiterative way, while you are training, you are exercising, you learn, you understand even better maybe the procedure, the plan, the instruction that you have to put into action. And until when you don't put into action, you can't be sure that what you have designed so far is really effective.
Mm-hmm. And you're contributing
from
to
that,
well.
You may have some confirmation that something is really designed properly, but maybe that the timing is not the proper one. You need to explain better one procedure, how to activate the call tree, the emergency team, how to properly communicate the crisis to your internal and external stakeholder, and so on. get lesson learned from this training and exercising, and revise all your framework in terms of risk management, business continuity, cybersecurity, and so on.
And put those lessons into action.
Exactly. For me, it's the condition sine qua non, because, for example, if you know that you have to follow this step to manage properly a disruptive event, although you don't have a proper plan for an unusual disruptive event, but at least you know how to manage a situation.
Mm-hmm.
Because namely, business continuity plan is a scenario independent, so you should be so efficient in structuring your business continuity plan, your disaster recovery plan, all the other plans in a very effective, simple, direct language. Because as we know, during chaos, you need also to consider the psychological aspect. Not everybody is calm and react properly during chaos. And especially if you don't make them exercise and train properly, they can add more chaos to the chaos.
Yeah. On that note, we've come to the end of our first segment. We're talking about business continuity and risk management, a well-orchestrated Paso Doble for resilience. And we're talking today with Federica Maria Rita Livelli, and we'll be right back.
Thank you. See you soon.
Welcome back. Today we are talking with Federica Maria Rita Livelli from the BCI Virtual World Conference in November on the topic of business continuity and risk management, a well-orchestrated Paso Doble for resilience. Federica, business continuity and risk management, there's an ethical role that these groups play as well. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think that all the ISO standards more or less implies an ethical role, but mainly for me, business continuity and risk management have a main ethical role because namely they provide all the plans to ensure the resilience of the organization, guarantee the proper action to protect the value of the organization. And obviously, as we were saying before, you need to be prepared to act in advance, ex ante, as in Latin we say, and in Italy we say, because you should consider that nowadays, as I say, there is the uncertainty of the certainty of risk. That means that you can't expect a disruptive event, but you should anticipate the unexpected or the certainty of risk nowadays, because in some way, some risk are converting themselves into certainty events.
Yeah. A matter
and
of
it will be curious for me to see also how the insurance industry will act in the future, especially for risk like cyber attacks or extreme weather risk that are not more unpredictable risk, but we know that we need for sure to cope with them. And therefore, that is the reason why I consider business continuity and risk management as a discipline that have an ethical role, because they contribute to the governance and the compliance of the organization to all laws and regulation. And nowadays, as I was saying before, even the cybersecurity standard should be considered in order to make the organization stronger and stronger and more resilient, without forgetting that organization can't, as before, perform by silos, but they need to have a very, synergical and fluent interaction among them.
You got me thinking when you said, disasters are going to occur at some point, you just don't know when. Does what you're saying also translate to the government and community levels? Because I know Italy has experienced some horrific earthquakes in the last couple of years. So does it translate to beyond this organization?
Moving further, there are presentation position from different groups at institutional level to consider as compulsory the management of risk in order to guarantee continuity and resilience. And for example, Confindustria, the industry association at national level, as a group with a delegation to the European level in terms of resilience, that submitting early this spring a proposal of considering risk management and business continuity as a compulsory standard in order to force at the European level all the organization to handle properly risk, anticipate the unexpected, and guarantee their resilience. And especially in these months in Italy, we have one regulation at national level, enterprises crisis, where one of the article of this regulation at the national level implies the proper management of risk and the proper resilience of the organization, because against the impossibility of proving that risk were dealt properly, the enterprise may be assessed differently by the governmental system. And nowadays banks and insurance company are more sensitive in verifying that corporation carry out proper risk assessment and provide proper business continuity, disaster recovery, or other plans that may contribute synergically to the resilience of the organization. And especially considering the geological morphology of our country and the fact that with the passing of time, with a different approach to the building sector that allows organization to build their factory or their plants in areas that were not, in terms of risk analysis and continuity business impact analysis, the proper one to consider. So I think that with the passing of time, there is inevitably evolution towards a more resilient approach. And I think that professionals in this discipline should more and more provide their contribution and try to develop this culture daily. For example, I try to contaminate my contest at the national and international level with articles, white paper, taking part to webinar and conferences, and namely play like a magister in the dilating meaning of the word. That means the one that show the way. And I think this is very important because I think that we reach this so-called point of no return, where together with all the other environmental issues, the Agenda 2030 at the worldwide level, each of us has an ethical role as a professional, as a human being, and moreover, all the organization in implementing this discipline and contributing to the resilience of our world.
Well, I've got a question for you now, because I was thinking, and you're talking about how all these people in the orchestra need to work together, and dancers need to work together, risk management, business continuity work together. How do you break down these silos? How do you get business continuity to talk to health and safety, or get health and safety to even respond? How, any tips on how to break that down?
Personally, you know, this was always my strong point, strong level, in a different environment and in different positions throughout my professional experience. And I think that you need to be human. You need to keep in mind that try to speak with your heart, with mind, because and be humble. At the same time, try to understand who is in front of you. Create a sympathy. That means feel together, share emotion, and be simple in transferring a concept, and listen to people, because you know, if you think that in most organizations everything, all the plans, the designing of strategies comes from top to down, but nowadays, and we realize that during these 2 years of pandemic, we need to be more transversal, to communicate, because it's always, we are back to square one. It's a matter of knowledge. If you know, you get a word, you understand, and you can react. Cause and effect. It's always a matter of that. And in this very frantic world, in this VUCA world, uncertain, full of vulnerability, complexity, and ambiguity, we need to avoid silos. We need to understand each other, to know what each piece of this organizational puzzle does in order to fix the proper piece of the puzzle properly and have the comprehensive view of the puzzle. And for me, what is also very important, it's always to think of knowing not enough, because I remind one sentence of Alvin Toffler, the US writer and futurist, that says that the illiterates of the future will not be those who cannot read or write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and learn again. And here again, it's only a matter of interaction, understanding, get aware, and identify the proper strategies, but guaranteeing a continuous flow of interaction and communication in order to play at unison, as in a symphonic orchestra.
Mm-hmm. Let's say I am in the business continuity world. What tips do you have for me to get started to reach out to these groups? I'm sure there's people out there listening right now that are wondering, well, what can I do right now to start making a change? I know overall you talked about communications and different aspects, but what
I'm always,
steps can
for
I start doing
example,
now?
I fully understand. I have been always curious. I try to understand what the others do in different association, institution. For example, I'm sitting in three boards, Business Continuity Italy chapter, Business Continuity Institute as member of the conduct committee. I'm member of the board of the Italian Association of Risk Manager and Insurance Company. I'm part of the scientific committee of CLUSIT, that is the main institution dealing even at the governmental level with the cybersecurity issues. I'm at the Italian Security Manager Association member, and I'm trying always to interact even in different contexts. For example, I enroll myself in a LinkedIn community because I think the most important is to share view, to listen each other, because sometimes you get a different perspective that you couldn't consider before, and only with a positive, creative dialectic, you can improve and spread and contaminate more our society in spreading the culture of business continuity, risk management, cybersecurity, and the other harmonized systems that may better contribute to the whole resilience of our organization and our world, because you have to consider also the unusual interaction among discipline, among standard, and evaluate all the causes and the effects generating from their implementation.
We are getting to the end of our show. We've only got 3 minutes or so left. Can you take a minute or two and give some final thoughts on this? What are your risk and business continuity working together?
Yes. What I wanted to stress further, as it is written in this slide that we see in front of us now, that resilience should not be expected, but prepared to anticipate the unexpected, and sometimes nowadays the certainty of risk. Therefore, be ready to face everyday life as a human being, as a part of an organization, in order to be all together proactive in protecting our world. Thank you.
On that note, we've come to the end of the show. Federica, thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you to you, Alex.
I really appreciate it, and congratulations on your speaking engagement at BCI World. Really appreciate it. Actually, at the time we're recording here, all the best to you and your friends, colleagues, and family for the holiday season.
The same to you and to all the audience. I wish everybody a new year full of serendipity that we urge so much.
Yeah, so let's hope 2022 has some positive. Fingers
Exactly.
crossed.
Take care, and thank you again for giving me this possibility of sharing my views with respect to these two disciplines.
I
Thanks
appreciate
again.
it. Thank you so much. And to everybody listening and watching, stay prepared, everybody. If you liked that video, thumbs up. If you didn't like that video, thumbs down. But leave a message and let me know what your thoughts are. If you'd like to be a guest on the show to talk about something related to business continuity, disaster management, COVID, personal well-being, anything that's relatable to those subjects, you can reach me through my LinkedIn profile, which is in the video description. And of course, don't forget to subscribe. In the meantime, stay prepared, everybody.